Before we begin this, I should say that this video is going to contain a lot of spoilers for all the Grishaverse, but specifically for this duology. So if you haven't read anything yet and you don't want to get spoiled, bye. It was nice having you here for like 5 seconds. If you don't give a fuck about spoilers, then welcome to the video. The Grishaverse is a universe created by author Leigh Bardugo and it spans throughout 7 books. First, the Grisha trilogy, or is it known now, the Shadow and Bone trilogy, which follows Alina Starkov, Six of Crows duology, and most recently, the Nikolai duology. Now, let me preface this by saying I was really excited for the Nikolai duology to come out. I love Six of Crows, I thought the Grisha trilogy was meh, but it was still entertaining, and Nikolai was by far my favorite character in that trilogy. So when Leigh Bardugo said she was gonna write a duology specifically focusing on Nikolai as a main character, I was really happy. But the thing is, as I finished Rules of Wolves, which is the second book in the duology, I couldn't help but think, was this necessary? The answer is no. End of video. Okay, I'm just kidding. I want to bring a broader discussion into why I think this duology was kind of unnecessary to the overall universe. Because you see, I did enjoy King of Scars. I gave it 4.5 stars. With Rules of Wolves, I think I gave either 3 or 3.5 stars. So I was really disappointed, to be quite honest. It's not a bad book. It's just a lot of stuff could be better. Anyways, after the event of the ending of the Grisha trilogy, where, you know, the Darkling gets killed, Alina loses her powers, and Nikolai established as king of Ravka, we have Six of Crows, but then we have the Nikolai duology, which is basically Nikolai having to deal with the fact that now he has this monster inside of him, and the monster is acting out a lot. So him and Zoya try to figure out what can they do to solve this problem, because he can't be a king while there's this very hungry demon inside of him, and it's shown that it's causing problems, like it's going out and killing animals. We also follow the character from Six of Crows duology, Nina Zenik, going on an undercover mission in Fjerda and having to deal with leaving after the events of the duology. So that was very interesting. During the novel, we see Nikolai struggling a lot, not only with the demon, but with having to deal with the very broken country of Ravka. There's basically no money in the banks, and Shuhan and Fjerda are again trying to start a war in which they know that Ravka will lose because Ravka is very damaged. So we also see Nikolai trying to make a wedding pact between any country, to be quite honest, to see if he can gather more allies and all. He's trying to win the people over, and that's very fun. I did like the political aspect. I think Nikolai really is a great king, to be quite honest. He cares about the people. He cares about Ravka. Like, one of the things I loved about him in the Grisha trilogy that continued on in the Nikolai duology was that he was always thinking about Ravka. He genuinely loves his country and wants the best for his country and its people. The thing is, he has to leave for some time because he kind of figured out a way he can get rid of the demon. So him and Zoya go on this adventure that I think takes a bit too long. That part I wasn't a big fan of. But then eventually they get to the place. We discover a few of the saints are kind of alive and all. We do the ceremony. And what happens is the Darkling, this motherfucker right here, comes back to life. And that, I think, ruined this duology. I'm gonna be honest, I never liked the Darkling. I hate the Darkling so much. Like, I went into the trilogy already knowing he was the villain because I was a bit spoiled, but I didn't care. I didn't like him. I know a lot of people love him. They see him as this dark, handsome, misunderstood guy. I think he's a dick, not in a good way. You have no idea how happy I was when he was killed in the last book. I was, thank God, we're done with this guy. So can you imagine how pissed I was when he fucking came back at the end of King of Scars? I was like, there is no reason for him to be back, okay? Because his whole deal was with Alina. And Alina, as we know, is kind of like just living in the countryside, taking care of orphans with Maul and all. She's not a protagonist anymore. So bringing a Darkling made no sense. And I was like, this is just gonna cause conflict that is completely unnecessary to the main plot. Because the focus of the story should be Nikolai trying to make connections, trying to get rid of these demons so he can be the best king he can for Ravka and trying to bring Ravka back into glory. And then with the Darkling coming back, we have this kind of cloud that appears and kills people. And they're like, oh, that's connected to the Darkling. So suddenly we have this whole shift into like having to do with this thing. And then at the end of Rules of Wolves, the Darkling sacrifices himself in this heroic manner to get rid of this cloud. But in the way he's gonna suffer forever because he's gonna have his heart being like poked again and again and again, and he won't be able to die. And I was like, great, he's gone for good again. And then a lot of things at the end of Rule of Wolves happened that I wasn't happy of. One of them was Zoya becoming queen. Don't get me wrong, I like Zoya. I didn't like her in the original trilogy, but King of Scars really made me appreciate her a lot more. I really understood her as a character. I understood that she wasn't a bitch or mean. She had a lot of trauma, especially getting to know her past with, you know, she was gonna be a child bride, and then her aunt saved her and blah, blah, blah. And then her whole thing with one of the saints and him trying to push her and saying you have to let go, you have to let people in, and her becoming more and more powerful. Her becoming a dragon was fucking amazing. But the thing is, I really don't like when characters that never had an ambition for something become that thing. Zoya is not that kind of character. She's a leader, but I don't think she's like the type to be a leader of a goddamn country. Zoya never wanted to be queen. That whole plot line belonged to Nikolai. The only way I could accept Zoya as queen was like she marries Nikolai and he decides to do a co-monarchy, which I would have been fine with it, to be honest. I think having two monarchs, one being a normal guy and the other being a Grisha, would have been great. But no, Zoya becomes queen, and I was like a bit disappointed because Nikolai was literally the perfect king. Why can't he stay on the throne, for God's sake? And then she's like, well, the Darkling's suffering and all, maybe we should find people, cough cough, the Six of Crows gang, to go and save him, find a replacement for him, and yada yada. And I hated that. I really did. Because again, I don't like the Darkling. I want him to die and stay dead. And also, I'm completely against a third Six of Crows book because the Six of Crows will not be the same if they're not six, if you know what I'm talking about. But anyways, we got that ending, and I felt completely like, did we really need to have two books about this for this conclusion? Because honestly, I thought it was unnecessary. I felt we opened doors that didn't need to be open. Like the whole Darkling shenanigans did not have to happen. It did not further the plot. It just created unnecessary conflict, as I said before, and it was very fucking annoying. We got Nikolai suddenly not becoming king anymore. Oh, because he's a bastard, bitch. Also, this is something I remembered while editing and I wanted to add it to the video. But another thing that I didn't like about this novel was that they confirmed that Nikolai is a bastard. So technically, he had no claim to the throne because he was not a Lantsov. First of all, I think that's bullshit because the whole thing about Nikolai and his heritage was that regardless of him being a Lantsov or not, he was still a good king. The people of Ravka loved him and he didn't need royal blood to be like that, and he proved himself in so many different ways. And I honestly, and this is a me thing, I prefer when a character's lineage is like, not really sure if he's a bastard or not. And also, I just remembered halfway through the novel, you know, Nina is in Fjerda and she's trying to find these letters that kind of prove that Nikolai is a bastard. So Nina goes all through this fucking trouble to get rid of this goddamn letters. And then Nikolai's biological father, Magnus Objer, or however you say his name, goes out of his way to get out of prison, walk all the way from Fjerda to Ravka with essentially the clothes on his back just to say one last goodbye to Nikolai and be like, hey, I'm essentially going to live in anonymity so that you can keep your crown because you're my son and I love you. They did not go through all that for Nikolai to get to the end of the fucking novel, and instead of saying, I'm the rightful king of Ravka, pull a 180 and say, oh, I'm a bastard, bitch! Are you fucking kidding me? Anyways. You know what this ending made me feel like? It reminded me back when Game of Thrones ended and fucking Bran became the goddamn king. That was never the ambition of that character. There was no reason for it. And I think it just opens up a lot of possibilities that I don't really want to see. I don't really want to have like another book talking about Zoya going through the same shit as Nikolai when it could have just been Nikolai all along. I don't want to see a book about, you know, Cass, Jasper, Wylan, Nina, and Inej trying to find a way to save the Dark Lane. I really don't want to see that. And I get it. A lot of people want a 36 of Crows book. I don't. And I know I'm in the minority, but whatever. And I think the one thing this duology did right was furthering Nina's character, because I felt like in Six of Crows, a lot of her plot in that book was focused around a man. And so it was interesting seeing her as her own person and seeing Nina having another romance, which was completely different from the one she had with Matthias, was really fun. And seeing her conflict with like, well, I still love Matthias, but I need to move forward, was really interesting. Of course, there were aspects of the book that I did like. I did like that we got to see inside of Fjerda and Shu Han. I like that the Kiergut stuff got resolved by the end. And I like the critique of like people in power. They usually, you know, they can do awful stuff and they will get away with it just because they're powerful, especially royal families. But I just felt like, yeah, with this book. Also, another thing that pissed me off was that they fucking killed David in this book. My favorite ship in the original trilogy was Genya and David. I love them so much. And then she killed David for like no fucking reason. Bitch, are you kidding me? Like, haven't Genya suffered enough? Did you really need to kill David? I felt that was completely unnecessary. I don't know. They could have made him go missing. They could have like, he gets captured or something. But no, they fucking kill him. And honestly, if you read the Grisha trilogy and then you read Six of Crows and you really don't care, you don't want to know more, you know when you finish a movie that has an open ending and you're like, I'll just imagine what happened next. Just do that. This is one last addition I wanted to make, that although there were many aspects of the books that I like, I mean, the writing of Leigh Bardugo is still great, and I really like the progression of Nina, Nikolai, and Zoya's character. I did like seeing Fjerda and Shu Han. Those were all great. I just wanted to say that because the endings of both the Grisha trilogy and the Six of Crows duology were so tight, there were not enough loose ends to warrant this duology. Because there was not a lot of things that, oh, we need to further this, we need to explain, you know, how this is gonna end. It was not enough to justify making this duology in the first place. I still think that Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom is the best book in this whole universe. I think the duology has the best characters, is best written, and yeah, that's the video. I just wanted to rant about the Nikolai duology because I did feel it was really unnecessary. Does that mean I don't like the Grishaverse or that I like it less? No, I am still in love with the characters. I love this universe. I just don't think that if there were more books continuing this plot line, I don't think I would be that inclined to read it, or I wouldn't read it right away. Unless there were like prequels, for example, Demon in the Woods kind of talks about the Dark Lane. I want to read that even though I hate the Dark Lane. And also Leigh Bardugo said this is gonna be the last book for in this universe for some time. So I want to see other stuff she comes up with. If you like the video, click the like button, comment, subscribe. If you want to see my reviews for King of Scars and Rules of Wolves and you speak Portuguese, follow me on Instagram at Outro Insta Literário. Have a good day and goodbye.